Good morning, third graders. Good morning, Missy Witch's class. Hope everybody is doing well today. Today is Wednesday, and we have an assignment in our Journeys Close Reader. So you're going to need this book. Please turn to page 94, The Grasshopper and the Ant. The Grasshopper and the Ant is a fable, and fables, as we know, teach a lesson, which is called a moral. So we're going to start today by looking at these pages and reading and walking through it together so that you can answer the short responses at the bottoms of the pages. So we're going to start at the beginning. Background. Fables are short stories. They often have animal characters and share a moral or a lesson. The fable you are about to read is by Aesop, a storyteller who lived very long ago. Remember, moral and lesson are synonyms. They mean about the same thing. Okay. Setting a purpose. Read the fable and find out what the grasshopper learns from the ant. Okay, so we know ahead of time what we're going to be looking for. What is the grasshopper supposed to learn? Okay, as you read, look for text evidence. Remember, evidence supports the claim. Okay, so when you say something, you have to be able to back it up with proof. That's your evidence. Circle the title of the fable. Okay, the title of the fable is The Grasshopper and the Ant. Underline the activities that Grasshopper loves to do. Grasshopper loved to sing and play his fiddle. He played quiet songs and thunderous tunes. Sometimes Grasshopper played frightening music. Then he would hop around in a dramatic way. That's when he caused accidents. Okay, part 2, read. As you read, look for text evidence. Circle a sentence that tells what happens when Grasshopper jumps into Ant's grain. Underline a word that shows Ant is annoyed when he talks to Grasshopper. Okay, so we need to underline a sentence that tells what happens when Grasshopper jumps into the grain, and we have to underline a word that shows the ant is annoyed. One time, Grasshopper jumped into a pile of grain that Ant had spent all day collecting. The grain scattered across the landscape. You should be more careful, Grasshopper, scolded Ant. I worked hard to gather that grain. Now I have to pile it up again. I'm sorry, said Grasshopper. Why not take a break? It's a beautiful, sunny day. You'll have plenty of days to gather food. Okay, so as we're taking notes on the side, what does collecting mean? What does scattered mean? And what does landscape mean? Those are important words to know for understanding the story. Read and discuss. Reread the page. Why does Ant get annoyed with the grasshopper? How does grasshopper react? Cite text evidence in your discussion. Okay, so if you give a reason why Ant gets annoyed, you have to find evidence to support what you're saying. Okay, you have to have proof from the story, so find that in these paragraphs. Short response. Based on what you have read so far, how do you think the grasshopper and the ant are different? Cite details from the text in your response. Remember to read closely when you are reading directions. It clearly says cite details. That's plural. That means you need more than one detail from the story. You need at least 2. So after you've finished doing the work on this page, you can go ahead and continue with me to the rest. So just pause it for a minute and then do this work, and then let's do the second part together. Okay, so now that you've finished page 95, we can do page 96. Part 4, read. As you look for text evidence, look for text evidence. Circle the words that tell why Ant thinks Grasshopper should get to work. Underline words that tell what Grasshopper plans to do when it gets cold. Okay, so you know what you're looking for. Words to know in this section are survival and migrate. We should know migrate because that matches the story we're reading right now. You may think so, Grasshopper, but winter will soon be here. Then the ground will be frozen solid, said Ant. Now is the time to gather food and plan for survival. You should take a break from playing and do some work, Grasshopper said. I'll migrate to someplace warm if it gets too chilly. That way, I can keep on playing and singing. But for now, I'll play any song you like to make your work easier to do. Part 5, reread. Reread the page. Which of the characters is more worried about the future? Why? Cite text evidence in your response. So, if you say the ant is more worried, you need to give a reason why you're saying that, something from what you read. If you say the ant is more worried about survival, you need to also support that answer. Okay? So don't just put grasshopper or ant, you need to say why you think so from the reading. Okay, we're on to the last page, page 97. Part 6, read. As you read, look for text evidence. Circle words that tell why grasshopper can't find food. Underline words that tell why ant lets grasshopper sing and play for him. Okay, so you need to circle some words and you need to underline some words. The words that we're paying attention to in these paragraphs are shivered and trudged. Weeks later, fat flakes of snow began to drift from the sky. Grasshopper shivered. It was so cold that he could hardly hold his fiddle. Grasshopper looked for food, but the ground had turned into a blanket of white snow. What will I do now? I can't find food, and it's too cold for me to go far. Maybe Ant will help me, thought Grasshopper. Grasshopper trudged through the snow and knocked on Ant's door. Will you give me food if I sing and play for you? Asked Grasshopper. Ant said, Yes, I will. I worked hard the rest of the year, so now I have time to relax and have fun. Here's the moral. There are times to work and there are times to play. We're sure learning that moral right now, aren't we, third graders? There are times to work and times to play. Sometimes it's hard to work when you want to play, huh? Part 7, reread and discuss. Reread the page. Why does Grasshopper think Ant might be able to help him? Cite text evidence in your discussion. So think back to some of the character traits we know about Ant. Why does Grasshopper think that Ant would be a good place to go to get help? Think about the story events and the story's moral. Based on these, which of the two characters is wiser? What makes you think so? Cite evidence from the text in your response. So remember, a wise person is someone that is very knowledgeable, very smart. Why do you think the grasshopper thinks the ant is wise? Or why do you think the grasshopper is more wise? You need to pick which character you think is wiser and then write why. Okay, so use details from the story to give your answer. Thank you, third graders. Take your time. Make sure you're using capital letters and periods. Make sure you're using more than one detail that asks for more. Please write complete sentences and use that best handwriting that I know you have, because that makes it a lot easier for myself and Miss Seawitch to be able to read over the computer screen if you're writing dark enough and if you're writing clearly. So take your time and do a really good job like you always do. Thank you so much. I will talk to you again soon. Missing you. Bye.